How's it going, YouTube? Good evening. If you just started watching this playback, yeah, result yesterday, decent result. Finally, a decent result. 2-0. Bit to take from it. I think we don't need to get carried away with the result, but yeah, definitely some positives. Obviously, a big game again on the weekend against Chelsea, so it's kind of like one step forward, potentially a few steps backwards if we lose against Chelsea. But I think there's a low expectancy level, should I say? Struggling to speak. Expectancy level against Chelsea, really, which is surprisingly, I think, surprising that we've got that kind of expectancy level now as a club. It's the first I've seen come across it, really, as a United fan. But I suppose we've just got to be realistic this season and get some sort of stability on what we're doing. So fully expect a tight, cagey sort of affair on the weekend, and then we'll take it from there. I'm just watching the Man City PSG game in the background, so I'll add some comments into that. Big game in terms of players playing. I think when Messi's playing, you've got to observe, aren't you? So I'm watching a bit of that, seeing how they get on. Massive game, big stars, but yeah, big talk about who's next. Really, talk's been about in terms of management. So Pochettino, which is kind of one of the reasons I watched this game, but talk today that there's been a £10 million get out clause, or not clause, but get out compensation payment to him made by Man United, that Man United want him, that he's apparently very keen on coming across, despite the fact that he said in the media this morning that he's happy at PSG, his family's happy, he's a former player of the team and the club, and he doesn't want to go. He's contracted to manage them until 2023, so he's got another sort of year on his contract. But if Man United want him, Man United have got to pay the money for him and get him to come. And do we want him? Do we want him as fans? What's the alternative? I mean, I've been looking on Twitter this afternoon. I mean, it's like flies around shit with the United job at the minute. I mean, the amount of managers that are desperate to sort of like prove their worth. Ralph Rangnick seems to be so desperate to come across in any sort of capacity as manager, stating that he would, he's happy to come across, but as interim manager, but then wants a bigger role within the club after his interim management ceases, which I think is a little cheeky, to be quite honest, considering that, what we're going to give him a director of footballers role, but then he does shit during the interim management spell. So don't agree at all with that. I think that's a load of crap, to be fair. So I think that reaction in itself is worth disregarding. Personally, I hope they do find a full-time manager at this point in time. I don't think we can write off the season when there's only 12 games in. Really do desperately need to get a full-time manager in. Plus, we're still firmly in the Champions League now in the last 16. And in that tournament, as everybody knows, anything can happen. So as much as we've been poor in the league, you never know in the European competitions what you might do. So I think we need to get a full-time manager in, and you could still get an FA Cup. So let's get a full-time manager in, a manager that we want, and let's move on from there, really. We want Pochettino. Pochettino clearly wants to come, despite the fact that he's making noise that he's happy at PSG. PSG obviously making it quite clear that they're not going to be bullied by Man United, which is fair enough. And let's be honest, money doesn't really matter to PSG, so 10 million is not really the point, I suppose, to them as a club. They want to see, obviously, they want to keep the manager. They want some stability. They're halfway through a campaign. They're doing decent in League 1. In the French league, they're currently midway through a Champions League campaign where they're looking like they're going to go through. You know, ultimately they need to be keeping hold of him, don't they, for their own sake? And I'm sure Pochettino, in a certain sort of way, sees an opportunity to win a bit of silverware, which would be good for his CV. So, yeah. I think Carrick, for me, could he be an interim manager? I mean, personally, I don't think an interim manager would be the best way to go. As I've said, I think we're best off trying to get a foothold in acquiring somebody long term with how much of the season is left to go. But if Carrick is the option, I don't want to get a foreign in, not for that reason, but I think Carrick's been there for 3 years. He's more than qualified to take an interim management role. It showed last night that he's got something about him, and I think he's handled the media pretty well. So there's no reason for me that he can't handle that interim role until the end of the season. Obviously, don't want him beyond that. I think we do need to learn from his mistakes and move past that interim management into full-time management and get a full-time manager in. But yeah, I think Pochettino was looking at the best option so far. Albeit, I'm not keen on the Zidane thing. I think there's too much sort of arrogance and ego surrounding it. You know, and yeah, good records at certain bits, but you know, could he do it at a club that's pretty much on its knees at the minute? That needs to get back to where it should be. You know, not a team that's currently got a load of ready-made world-class stars that just need to kick up the arse. So, yeah, not keen on the Zidane thing. The Ranić thing seems to me to be desperation. Ronaldo apparently said that he thinks he's too old. I don't know how truthful that is. Apparently, like I say, he's the most viable option in terms of an interim management role. Oh wow, nearly a goal from City there off the line. Corner ball. Yeah, so I'm not keen on that idea, really. What else have we got here? So there was Valverde, the ex-Barcelona coach, as another option as an interim manager. Not sure of his credentials, really. But again, Rudy Garcia is another one. Been tipped. Was he ex-PSG? Wasn't really keen on that idea. Even Steve Bruce, apparently, his agent has offered his services to Man United, which I kind of joked earlier on today about that. I mean, what is? I mean, he's an icon at the club, and to be fair, I'd love to see him have some sort of capacity within the club. It's one of those things where you just wonder why. Oh wow, just Messi just absolutely nutmegging Sterling. Yeah, you know, it makes you wonder why people like him and Pallister and that kind of era in United, that early 90s, didn't get as much of a look in. As you know, that some of the icons get now in the sort of 2000s and stuff. But yeah, joking about it, what he offered his services to United, what was a road sweeper or a litter picker or a steward? There'd be a lot of fans who would consider him, and there's a lot of fans who can't see him beyond 2008. But there we go. We'll not talk about that. So yeah, I do think that we need to be looking at Poch as the option. We need to get him sorted, get that sorted, probably following this game really, and get him in next week. If he wants to come, he wants to come. Saw a bit of stuff from Spurs fans saying that there's no way he'll come. He loves us too much. He loves Spurs too much. That's a load of shit. You know, when you might not come calling. I'm sorry, Spurs, but you know you're a distant memory, pal. So yeah, not particularly interested in that noise. To be fair. Oh, good. Wow, good tracking back there. Looks like a good game. This. Like I say, we'll do a quick stream on this anyway. Mainly just talking around the Poch scenario, but I wanted to just get Poch's managerial stats and stuff up and talk a little bit about them. So this is This is Poch's recent stats, if you like. So Espanyol, where he was a player, wasn't he? He had a 32.92 win percentage, which for Espanyol might be considered okay, but it's a pretty poor win percentage, I think, even for a mid-table club, which I think Espanyol would be considered as. I think you need to be looking at a 40% win percentage ideally, but so yeah, pretty not great start off. Obviously got his chance in the Premier League, which was a big switch really for somebody of his calibre. I know he had a lot of difficulties with his English at the time, but he switched across to Southampton, where I thought he did really, really well. And there was that team where Southampton, he kind of built that foundation, didn't he, with like the likes of Lallana, I believe, and Schneiderlin and players like that who and they had a good run that year for a Southampton team. So that was, 38.33. So he's improved his win percentage at a pretty similar club, really, to be honest, in Espanyol. I think that you'd consider them to be fairly similar. Maybe Espanyol a little bigger than Southampton. Maybe just on the European scene, but yeah. So a better win percentage and a bit of a ratio there from Poch. Then goes to Spurs, so it gets his kind of biggish break, I suppose. We're not giving Spurs a massive hard time, but an opportunity there to take Spurs into the realms of something different, and he nearly did, didn't he? Taking him to a Champions League final, where they just came up a little short. Obviously, was there to help Kane find, some form and find his touch and close. Man City nearly in. So decent, very good win percentage at Spurs. I was quite surprised when I was looking at this earlier on. A very good win percentage for Spurs, and 54.27%, which is better than. Slightly better than Ollie's percentage at Man United. It's better than Van Gaal's percentage at Man United. It's better than David Moyes' percentage at Man United. It's better than 3 managers out of the last 4's percentage out from Man United, and he was obviously managing Spurs, which says a massive, that says a lot, doesn't it? 54% win percentage with Spurs. That's a very good win percentage for a team who, arguably have never won a trophy, really, a major trophy. So that is a huge plus point in his win percentage. So gradually improving as his teams have been, as he's been moving to his team. So that shows a bit of credibility in there. I know he gets a lot of rap for not being a manager who's won much or won anything. Probably both as a manager and a player, but for me, I think that's quite an impressive stat in itself. That his win percentage has increased, which shows that his credibility as a manager is also increased. And you could argue that he's gone to better teams, but I think the win percentage at Spurs, a 54% win percentage is an incredible stat. So, obviously he's now at Paris Saint-Germain, where he's at sort of nearly a 70% win percentage, which is just. Would you expect it in that league? I think you kind of would, really. Other than Marseille and maybe Lyon, is there any other teams? Maybe Nice on the odd occasion. Is there any other teams that would give Monaco? There's not really a lot of teams in that league that are going to give that level of that squad in particular a test. But this does obviously take into consideration his European and Cup record as well, and obviously only lost 9 games there in the overall, drawn 7 out of his 53. So the way they're carrying on here, it looks like they could lose another, but we'll see. So overall, I think Poch, he's showing some that shows credibility, I think, and if he's got a Man United team, albeit there's a hell of a lot of work that is required. If he's got a Man United team with the squad that he's got and the backing that he has. I know he's mentioned, or it was mentioned on one of the reports that I saw on Twitter today, that he's requested apparently or recommended 2 signings that Man United need. I don't know how they get these reports, considering that he's come out and clearly said that he's got no interest in the Man United job, that he's happy at PSG, that he's got his contract to 2023. He's not suddenly going to say, but by the way, they need to spend 90 odd million and they need to make 2 signings. I don't know how they managed to get that sort of level of information out of him. So that's slightly odd. But yeah, so I think he's the best candidate out of the lot. Like I said before, and I mentioned it on a previous stream that I did. I don't really rate the Zidane option. I don't really rate the Brendan Rodgers one was the best probable one, just because of the fact that he's similar to sort of Pochettino in the fact that I think he's quite good with the youngsters, quite good with the young squad, good at developing players and giving players a chance. Similar to a Tuchel, really, where I think he can develop players and he can bring players in, give players a chance, and even players on the periphery who still feel as if they've got a chance in the team. You look at Hudson-Odoi now at Chelsea, who get in a game yesterday. I think he scored. I'm sure Reece James wasn't part of his plans late last season. Has come back and he's doing really, really well. Same with Chilwell. They've cemented the places in the team and kicked out Azpilicueta and Alonso, really. So I mean, in terms of it for England as well, that's huge, and fair play to Tuchel for that. And that's what Man United need now. We need to be looking at that, and like people like Mason Greenwood in our team needs to be getting in an England team. The talent that lad has is incredible, and he needs to be pushing for the England team. How he's not got as many games, or how he hasn't got caps is just ridiculous, or as many more caps than he's got. And I think that's what Poch will do. I think he'll push for the younger players and he'll give them chances. And I think following that, then you'll see results, hopefully. But suddenly you'll start seeing these players as well. Like, we want to see Man United players playing for England as well. I'm not a massive. I'll watch the games, watch the qualifiers. It's difficult when we're playing San Marino and Andorra and Moldova and players like that. But obviously support the team. But it's nice when you're seeing the United players doing well in those games as well. And like I said, Mason Greenwood not getting a shout at the minute is diabolical. So I think Pochettino will be good for that. I didn't agree. So obviously the Rodgers one didn't necessarily agree with. Did I agree with? Do I agree with the Ralph Rangnick one? I don't really know him, and I think it's just, again, I just said it earlier on. It's got a smacks a little bit to me of a bit of desperation, to be fair, on his part. It's a massive job, massive job. Of course, he'd be doing everything to make noise about it. As I said, it's like flies around shit at the minute. A lot of the news reports that are coming out about the manager's job is just constant. None of it you can sort of believe to a degree. It's just constant noise. And like I say, the Poch thing, I don't know if I necessarily sort of believe that the Poch thing will materialise, really. I mean, for the blatant fact that it's the current situation that they're in at PSG. He's not been there for a great deal of time. He was there, obviously, from his stats there, you can see that he's been there since sort of January 2021. Neymar looks like he's in here. Oh, no. But he's been there since 2021, so he's only been there sort of the beginning of this year, and already he's talking of leaving. I know when Tuchel was on about PSG, he was frustrated there because I can't remember the exact comments he made, but he said something along the lines like he wasn't really sort of managing the team. He was almost managing like a PR manager, managing wives and girlfriends and just a weird kind of like sort of it wasn't football. It was almost like how basketball is in America, just very hyped up in the media, and it just wasn't his bag. And I think when you're a proper footballing coach and person, I think that would drive you insane. And clearly, probably Poch is the same sort of stamp, and I think it's probably just driving him insane. And he sees a good footballing opportunity, and oh wow, they're not scored there. That was a great bit of football. Yeah, so when you're a footballing man, you just want to be in football. You want to be working with with people who want to do well, and it's obviously a chance to work with Ronaldo as well. And you could put on his CV that he's worked with Messi and Ronaldo within in the same in his career, which would be a massive. There's not a lot of coaches who can say they've ever done that. Worked with both Ronaldo and Messi. I'm trying to think if there's any coaches that have ever done that, to be quite honest. So yeah, that'd be massively sort of interesting. Really, if Poch was to come, I think I've never been a massive fan of his. I think he seems like a decent guy who doesn't take a lot of shit, who is capable of playing a system, who's got a plan, who would work well with the current ethics and morals and the dynamic of the team, but equally would set a trend in terms of what he wants and what he expects from the team, but not completely tarnishing things like maybe a Conte would have done if he'd have come in. So I mean, the Conte thing was a bit of a negative for me. I feel like we could have really done with a Conte personally, but maybe the board didn't feel as if it was long enough of an appointment or whatever to solidify the team. But things in football these days change so quickly in 2 or 3 years, and two or 3 years of Conte would have been enough to surely set a plan for the next manager. And at that time, there could have been a lot of candidates that would have been screaming out for the job. So, we do need that consistency now. I think Poch, it seems to be that character that would give you that. He narrowly missed out on the job last time. Before Ollie took it, and then he sort of then had to take the PSG job. I think he desperately wanted to be in the Premier League, and he wanted this job. It was an odd thing that he didn't at the time. Maybe there's just been a bit of a trial and error with this one, that United have had to suffer a bit of pain to realise that, Poch is the man, and unfortunately we made a mistake. We've had a few years of not a few years of hardship. We've had a couple of decent sort of runs and things and cups and finishes in the league, but obviously the last 12 months in particular have been a bit disheartening, and it's going backwards. So yeah, we need a man who knows what he's doing. I think knows football, understands positions that we need, and I think it's the scary thing with United at the minute is that it's so blatantly obvious to everybody what Man United need. I mean, the local man on the street could manage this team at the minute, and I think, with all respect to Carrick, obviously he's not the local man on the street, he's a good class footballer, but within a game he's changed and motivated that team to a victory yesterday with decent changes in the second half, a decent system in that worked throughout the first half to frustrate Villarreal. Roda's luck a little bit guaranteed. De Gea with an unbelievable save, but I'm not saying he's that's obviously just a moral boost, an enthusiastic boost following a manager being sacked, and which is a shame really, because you just feel like, why is it taking that for the players to kick on, especially when Carrick was sat right next to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for 3 years. He's not been he's not an unfamiliar face coming in that's given him some level of motivation. He's been sat there twiddling his thumbs for throughout all this shit that we've had to put up with. So, but yeah, 100% think Poch is the right thing to do. Do I think he'll come? Mbappe throwing himself to the ground there. He really didn't need to do that. He was away. With his pace, he was away. Really didn't need to do that. But yeah, really do think he's the right man for the job. I think we just need to get him. I think we need some stability now. We've still got a foot in the Champions League in the last 16. That's a huge plus point. It was a big game yesterday, and we showed some fight, and we got a result. And we looked good for the last 20, 30 minutes. We looked good. So we need to kick that on. We need to carry that on. And I think getting the right man in a proper manager will do that. Personally, I mean, would I have Carrick in still around the team? Let's get rid of this. Would I have Carrick in the team still? I don't know. Has he been a fantastic omen? I think was he around when the Van Gaal era was there? I'm sure he was there when Mourinho was there. So there's been, he's been in and around the club, not obviously as a player, but I mean, like in some sort of coaching capacity for quite some time. And maybe it's time for Carrick, similar to sort of like your Gerrard and Lampard, if he's got appetite for it, to go find a job where he can excel in that field. But he needs to learn his trade. And I think he needs to give Poch, Poch the full support to implement his own staff and implement his own thing. I mean, unless Poch obviously wants Carrick there, he could want Carrick there for the fact that he knows the players, he knows the ethics of the club, he knows all the systems, he knows the training ground facilities, he knows some of the staff. Maybe he'll just feel like having him there would be a massive advantage rather than a disadvantage. So, maybe he'll keep Carrick there. Personally, I still feel like Carrick's got something to give. I do. I think he's got something to give. I don't think he's, it's completely redundant now, and that he needs ousting. I think there's a couple other coaches that do. I think you like seeing Mike Phelan and stuff. I honestly do not know what that guy is still offering to the team. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's offering everything to the team, and his insight is unbelievable behind the scenes. But surely it's time now to bring a new young feeling back into that setup. Mike Phelan's been around that club for a heck of a long time. Back in the Fergie era, in the Fergie days, which you're talking now at least 10 years ago. When he was settled and in that team, well, at least 7 or 8 years ago. But when he was actually at his pomp and at his best with Fergie, talking like 10 years ago, and beyond, and that's just, it's time for a change in that era. That in these last 10 years, it hasn't worked. It hasn't gone well. That Kinnear, the same. It hasn't gone well. There's a fitness coach in there. One of the coaches, and I've seen him. I think he was at Southampton or something along those lines. And I watched a clip on him, and he wasn't. I'll get his name. I'll bring it up on another stream. I'll do a little bit of homework on it. But he wasn't. He admits in this video that he's not a footballing man. He's not. He doesn't know much about football, but he's more based around sort of coaching tactics and drills, and it's and for United we don't want to be carrying somebody like, obviously he's had a sort of an internal promotion, but we don't want to be carrying coaches like that who haven't got expert knowledge in football. That's what we want to see. Coaches who are coming into the team who've got expert knowledge in the game, not coaches who have got on a certificate in studying football or whatever it may be. I'm not saying it is that in this guy's, but I will get the video. I'll find the video and I will do my homework on that. But I 100% recognise that guy's face from a coaching drill video. And in that video, I'm sure he was working at Southampton a few years ago, and he says, I'm basically not a football. I don't come from a footballing background. Now that's fine when you're working with players who are at maybe a lower tier Premier League. I'd even argue that you'd have to go lower than that if your expertise doesn't come from a footballing background. When you're working with elite level footballers, I mean, obviously I'm not. I don't know what the higher process is for coaches and all those kind of things. Maybe it's a case of the fact that it's a job for the boys and it's Kinnear's mate, or Phelan knows him from Mould, or he's only a young lad, but maybe there's a connection there with some of the other ex-players or or some of the coaches that are now, and he got a job through that, or maybe he genuinely went through an interview process where he was where he impressed the other coaches and got his job that way. But that's another. No, that was class from Sterling to drop that back. Initially, I thought he'd miss it that, but this is a good game, by the way. If anybody's watching this, you must be watching it. It's end to end. Yeah. Thought there was a goal there. But yeah, so interesting. If Poch comes, we'll talk about that later in the week. No doubt there'll be some more news on it as each day passes. Obviously, there'll be this game, so the Poch thing will probably take a little bit, be a bit of a honeymoon period in regards to dealing with that. But I think overall, Poch is a good addition, and I think would we keep Carrick? I think there's definitely some other coaches I would get rid of. But Carrick maybe not necessarily one of them. I don't think I would necessarily get rid of Carrick as an assistant manager or a assistant to Pochettino in some fashion. But there's definitely some other coaches that we just need to improve upon, and that needs to happen soon. So yeah, if you watch this back, then I appreciate that. If you could share, like, share, like and subscribe, please, because I really, I'm putting some effort into this, and would love it if we got some people in here and we could start having a bit of a conversation with what's going on at the minute at United. So please, if you watch this back, then drop us a like and subscribe, and then we can start commenting and having some debate. So yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one, which will hopefully be tomorrow, on some news regarding Poch and squad for the weekend. So cheers guys. See you in a bit.